With many Canadians speculating that an election is on its way or at least coming by 2025, many people have speculated as well that elections could be over in Canada. And if Klaus Schwab has his way after this last week in Davos, that very, and that's scary. Let's get into it.
Oh, yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. The World Economic Forum, we talked about them last week, and we talked about how this massive campaign was going on to essentially fight misinformation and disinformation. It was the main topic of discussion in Davos over the week. Of course, we've seen the Argentinian president show up to kind of give Klaus Schwab a little bit of a what for when it came to his ideologies on the World Economic Forum. And Chrystia Freeland speaking at the World Economic Forum as well, which so happened to be coincidental as you look at our video last week where we talked about how there's a new app coming out in Canada to discuss how to stop the spread of misinformation and disinformation during our next election. What's really scary about the World Economic Forum and what I can't understand is how people so calmly sit back and do nothing. We've seen news outlets like True North that go there every year to report on the conference in Davos, and kudos to them for doing so. But, a couple of years ago when you'd mentioned the World Economic Forum, people said, hey, it's a conspiracy theory. There's no superpower of elites who sit around discussing how to, control the world. And that sounds like something straight out of a movie. Well, as the years have gone on, it went from a conspiracy theory to actual reality. Now, Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum don't even hide what they're doing. And they certainly don't try to beat around the bush when it comes to their warnings to the public. Now, they've been talking about elections and election interference and the possibility of not having any more elections for quite some time. But this latest revelation from Klaus Schwab over what the future of Canada could look like is definitely scary. And I wanted to show that and then discuss why I think we're headed towards this and why this could very well be the end of elections in Canada. As a concerned citizen tweeting out here, can you imagine in 10 years we have an implant in our brain? Quoted from Klaus Schwab. The world's real-life supervillain and head of the WEF, Klaus Schwab, wants to microchip your brain. From the organizations that are on record stating human free will and spirit is a misconception, these insane global lunatics literally wish to control every aspect of your life down to your very essence of what you think, hence the term transhumanism. It's scary. It's scary because Klaus Schwab isn't the only one involved here. Of course, he has younger generations within his family that are prepared to take the helm when he's gone. This should be an outcry. This should be people demanding that governments pull away from the World Economic Forum. I don't know how we get there, but let's listen to what good old Dr. Evil has to say here.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers. Is it imaginable? The technology now and digital technologies mainly have an analytical power. Now we go into a predictive power, and we have seen the first examples, and your company very much involved into it. But then the next step could be to go into prescriptive mode, which means you do not even have to have elections anymore, because you can already predict, and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be. Can you imagine such a world?
Why do we need elections, he's asking. Because it's a democratic right. That's why we need them. That's part of a democracy, Klaus. That's part of how the world works. And what I can't understand, and what I've been saying for a long time, is that I have a hard time understanding how a guy with the hubris of Justin Trudeau just can't get the message that it's time to step down. If we look at his basic statements of why he's going to run, we've seen here on this news conference, posted over from the Countersignal on top of Cat Canada. Countersignal says Justin Trudeau says that the most important issues for Canadians in the next election will be climate change and reconciliation. Like, nothing about affordability, nothing about taxes, nothing about not being able to live or pay your bills. Sorry, I skipped over that there. Um, Nothing about inflation or the radical spending of the Liberal governments. Of course not. Of course not. Let's listen to what Justin Fancy Socks had to say. I know everybody hates his voice, but I want to get full perspective on here before I go into what I think is heading our way.
There's for sure going to be a federal election within the next year and a half. To what extent is Nunavut a riding that you look at as one you'd want to win back to survive another federal election?
Well, I think Canadians, not just in Nunavut, but right across the country, are going to have a really important choice coming up in the next election. Do we want to continue to fight climate change? Do we want to still continue to look at responsible partnerships, working together to solve big issues? Do we want to continue to work towards reconciliation as an explicit goal and a journey that Canada's on? Those are the kinds of questions people are going to have to ask themselves in the next election, because the Conservative Party under Pierre Poilievre has made it very, very clear that they want to take Canada backwards in all those ways and more. And I look forward to having these conversations with Canadians in Nunavut and right across the country. But for now and for the next year and a half plus, we have a lot of work to do, and we're going to keep rolling up our sleeves and doing it together.
That's scary. That is really scary. The idea behind Justin Trudeau running again. You look at the polls, you look at all these different polling organizations that are saying conservatives are ahead of the game. They're on par to get a majority in the next election. People are fed up with the Liberals. NDP are voting higher, or polling higher, I should say, than the Liberals. But what is very scary here, and when we talk about the idea of apps, and we all know how good apps from the government work out, but telling you about misinformation and disinformation and tomfoolery. Klaus Schwab, again, this discussion of Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum last week wasn't just the first time that he's talked about no more elections. They have warned about ceasing elections or stalling elections, that there was going to be a black swan event in 2024. And I can tell you right now, with the way Donald Trump is heading in the United States right now, on the ballot to fight Joe Biden for the chair of the White House, I can guarantee you that any powers that be that are watching the economy and who's in charge in the United States, as well as what's going on in Canada with everything that's unraveled in the last 8 years, or the last 4 years in the U.S., this is going to be a scary year. And I keep saying that on the channel. I don't like talking about these kind of doomsday analogies, but if you don't think there's going to be some form of tomfoolery going on in our next Canadian election, whether it's in the spring, whether it's called earlier, or whether we have it in 2025, I'll say the same thing I've been telling everybody since December. Buckle up. It's going to be a crazy year with Parliament going back into session. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out, what gets said. If the NDPs turn on the Liberals based on them polling better, some of them might be scared and want to keep their jobs. And again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We'll be covering it all here on the channel. But let me know what you guys think here. Is the WEF going to dismantle elections in Canada? Is this the end of free and fair elections for everyone? Let me know your comments down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure as you're hitting that button over there, Click your bell for notifications because, well, Justin Trudeau and guys at the WEF want to censor us in the algorithm anytime we talk badly about them. So make sure to check back regularly Monday to Friday, as we always have new content dropping here on the channel. And join us every Sunday for the weekly wrap at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time here on the channel, where we go over everything that's happened in the prior week, everything coming up in the week ahead, as well as some back and forth with the community. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you there on Sunday, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.